Just a reminder, exercise number 1 in the morning before you even get to the yeshiva, first thing you have to do is look up into the heavens, see what's going on. Was anybody up early this morning? Did you see what was going on? What did you see?
Well, the sky, but I didn't see anything.
You didn't see anything interesting? What?
The color was so beautiful because I wake up so early, so maybe, but it was so beautiful, like an orange, pink.
Yes, there were a lot of clouds in the sky. Well, she got up earlier because she comes from far away. There were a lot of clouds in the sky, but there were spaces between the clouds, and the sun had not yet risen. So all the lower level of the clouds was tinted red and pink. It was beautiful, beautiful morning. I used to, when I would walk with my children, who now live in Little Rock, we would walk along the street and I would point out to them things like how the trees were bringing forth buds, and the buds were turning into leaves, and the wonders that are all around us. And then I would say to the children, I said, could you do that? Could you make that? They said, no, we couldn't make that. Only Hashem could make that. So that's the first thing we have to do. The word Shema is made of 3 letters, Shin, Mem, Ayin. Okay? Shin stands for Se'u, which means to lift up. Morim, the mem stands for Morim, on high. Shema is Shin, Mem, Ayin. Ayin is your eye. In the plural, Einechem, your eyes. Lift up your eyes. Ura'u, and behold, the rest of that's half a pasuk, half a verse. The rest of the verse is, anybody know? Lift up your eyes and behold. Who made all this? So that's the first thing we have to do every morning. Okay, in chapter 1, we also learned, by the way, just a note for your general awareness, we don't know anything for sure. Whatever anybody tells you may not be true, or it may be true. How do you know? If you can find somewhere in the Torah that it says it, then you know it's true. And if you can't, keep looking. So, how do we know that we have a neshama? Because it says in the prophet Isaiah, in the name of God, when a prophet speaks, he doesn't speak for himself. This is an extraordinary thing. We cannot understand it. If you want to learn about it, you look in Rambam. There are a whole section of Jewish laws about prophets. There are a lot of laws concerning prophets, our obligation to listen to prophets. What happens if we don't listen to prophets? What if prophets say a false prophecy? What if they don't listen to their own prophecy? And so on. So in the laws of prophets, the Rambam describes for us what happens, how does a person become a prophet? He totally puts aside his intellect, his feelings, everything. He just becomes like a microphone, and Hashem speaks through him because of his total connection and submission to the life energy of Hashem. And he says, the prophet speaks in the name of God, and the prophet says, I am going to grant you rain in your seasons. Does the prophet grant rain in his seasons? No, Hashem does, but the prophet tells us in Hashem's name. Hashem empowers him to do this. So in prophecy, I believe it's Isaiah who says in Hashem's name, I have created neshamas. I made souls. Where do the souls come from? I made them, says Hashem. Okay. Now we take the next step in chapter 1 to know that every person has, when it says neshamas, it means many. That means like for everybody. And then the Alter Rebbe takes one step more and he says, not just for everybody, 2 souls. We have 2 souls. We have the first soul a person gets when he or she is born. That's why you cry when you're born, because Your soul remembers what it was like where in that good place you were before. And you find yourself in this dark, cold world, and you cry, scream. Very rare is a child who doesn't scream. Very, very rare. That's called the basic human soul, the vital soul, the source of energy in a person's life that runs all the systems. There's an elderly person walking along the street. He was walking with difficulty. I said to him, "Do your feet hurt when you walk?" He said, "The whole system," he said, "the whole system." He was very, very old. And that's what happens when you get old. The whole system doesn't function so well. Well, the energy, that basic human energy runs the whole system. But then, as you grow older, there's a second soul. That's what we're learning about in the second chapter. We learned about the first soul in the first chapter. Now we learn about the second soul in the second chapter. And the second soul is the holy Jewish soul called the neshama. And now we're going to learn in the second chapter, in the third chapter even, that there are different names, different levels of the neshama. One is nefesh, that's the basics, holy energy in a person. Ruach is this emotive energy, the spirit. The ruach is the spirit. Mabali Tshuva in Morristown once made a magazine called Nefesh. It's the basic soul. Ruach is the higher level soul, and Neshama is the highest level of the soul. Actually, the Alter Rebbe cut short. There are two higher levels than that, but he doesn't go into that in this book of the Tanya, in the first book. So there are 5 levels of the Neshama, actually, which is why we have 5 candles in the synagogue when we daven, for the 5 levels of the soul. When do you get your neshama? For a young man at his bar mitzvah. First of all, the initiation is at the bris on the 8th day, or later if a child for some reason cannot have a bris. And then in stages, when the child learns Aleph Beis, has a haircut at the age of 3, starts wearing a yarmulke and tzitzis, starts doing mitzvahs, starts getting training to say brachas and birkas hamazon and Shema Yisrael. So then he becomes a little more sensitive on the spiritual level. So the godly soul enters, starts to come in. Then in a big way on the bar mitzvah, that's why people's lives change around bar mitzvah age, and they suddenly get tremendous challenges from the animal soul, or in girls' cases, bas mitzvah. In Reform Judaism, they say that no, bas mitzvah takes place at 13, the same way as by boys. They want egalitarianism, but it's not true. A girl matures earlier, and the girl at the age of 12 starts lighting Shabbos candles. I couldn't believe it when I heard that. The Reform rabbi said 12. It's not the age of bas mitzvah. Girls can wear tefillin, and girls can daven in a minyan. Anyway, and then when you get married, then you've got the whole deal, the real deal. Then the neshama is completely invested in one body, and it grows and matures as a person learns Torah and does mitzvahs. So now we're learning in chapter 2 about this holy neshama, and page 49. We'll go through this very quickly because we've done it already. The second soul is a part of Hashem. It's not that Hashem is God and we have an inclination towards that, we're sensitive to it. No. The holy Jewish soul is God. It's God. It says it quite clear in the first line, a part of God from above, and truly means down here, for real. word for real is mamish. Mamish means like physically real. So this is something that bridges two universes. It bridges the physical universe, the real physical universe, and the highest spiritual universe, higher than all universes, which is godliness. And your holy neshama participates in both of these realities. And the goal is, there's a purpose to this, there's a reason for it. The reason is to connect them. We are the connectors, intermediaries between heaven and earth, between godliness and physicality. And the goal is that this physical world, which does not show godliness, I mean, trees don't speak to us, the physical world does not declare to us the holiness of God, unless a person's very inspired, like the William Blake, the well-known 19th century poet from England, mystic, non-Jewish, who says, some people see when the rising sun, they see a globe, a shiny globe about as big as a threepenny, and I see a host of angels crying out, holy, holy, holy is the Lord of hosts. So we're bridging the gap between spirituality and physicality, that they should be connected, and the whole world should declare that this is Hashem's world. And we are the ones, the agents, who make this possible. For Hashem to make it possible is no big deal. So he doesn't get anything out of that. He wants us to be his representatives and make it for him. Like a king doesn't want to make his own kingdom just for himself. He wants subjects. A king without subject is not a king, and he's not great. Right? It says a king without a queen is also not great. And he's not a king. Okay. So where does his neshama come from? So in chapter 2, we learn that in the case of mankind, Adam, Hashem blew a holy neshama into the nostrils of Adam. So this teaches us that same way we blow, Dasi, take a deep, deep breath. Don't look at anybody. Look away from everybody. Okay, you ready? You can look towards me. Take a deep, deep breath. Ready? When I say 3, I want you to blow out. 1, 2, 3. As hard as you can. No, much harder than that. Take a deep breath. Okay, ready? Breathe in. 1, 2, 3. Oh, good. Where did it come from?
Like in here? Like
no, it did not come from in here. Not from there.
From my
That's if you're breathing normal, that's where it comes from. Do it again. Now, feel sensitive. Be sensitive. Feel. Take a deep breath. 1, 2, breathe in. 1, 2, 3, breathe out. Blow. Not exhale, blow. Blow over the pushka. See if you can blow over the pushka. Knock it over.
I can't.
You can? Okay, let's all do it together. 1, 2, 3. In, blow. Where did it come from? Down here.
Deep down.
It comes from deep down there when you blow. So that's telling us that Hashem blew into the nostrils of Adam, the man that he had created. That's a metaphor. Hashem doesn't really blow, but he gave us life from deep within his life, just like if you were blowing, like mouth to mouth. Okay, that's one thing. That's one metaphor. The second metaphor is where the soul comes from, is that it comes from a deep innermost life that Moshe Rabbeinu, when he goes to tell Pharaoh in Egypt that the Jewish people cannot remain his slaves, they don't belong to him, they belong to Hashem. Hashem says on page 50 at the bottom, towards the bottom there, so too allegorically speaking, Jewish souls rose up in the thought of God. And then there's a verse to bear this out. Like I said, everything has to be proven from holy verses. This is from the Torah itself. Moshe Rabbeinu says to Pharaoh, in the name of God, because Moshe is a prophet, he speaks in the name of God. He doesn't say anything on his own. He only says what God tells him to say. And he says, Israel is my firstborn son. And where does the energy for the creation come from? From the mind of the Father. That a father is inspired to get married and to have a family because something deep inside of his being tells him, I want to have children with this woman. I want to have a family, and she's going to be the one who's going to do it. Why does he get this inspiration? We explained, because she, a woman of valor, is a crown to her husband. Where do you wear your crown? Where do you wear a crown? On your head, above your head. So if the thought is father of the child, where does the thought come from? The thought comes from the crown. The crown gets its energy from the potential of the wife-to-be. She broadcasts this. Mental telepathy, spiritual energy. She gives a look at this young man. She doesn't say anything. That's immodest. She doesn't say, go over and say, I want to marry you. She doesn't say anything. It says, a man takes a wife. You know what it says? It's humorous. What does it say in the Talmud about that? It says, if a person loses his wallet, man and woman were originally united, and they were separated. It says in the Torah, Hashem put man to sleep and separated from him a wife. Some translate it as a rib. And from this rib, he built up a woman. And this is so a man has to, if a man loses his wallet, how's he going to get it back? Well, is the wallet going to look for the husband, for the man? Or does the man look for the wallet? The man looks for, so a man has to take a wife. Women who go out on the prowl looking for a husband, it's not natural. And their husbands better watch out. Okay, so that's what it's said. What we're saying here now is that the vitality of the neshama comes from deep, deep within the intellect of the Father, higher than intellect of the Father. And that even comes from a higher source than that, which is the crown. And the crown is, if the intellect, the wisdom, we didn't get to this now, we're up to this point, that the highest point of intellect, the tippy top of the lightning rod, the lightning strikes it on its way down. The very tippy top is your power of the potential of your intellect. It's not even a reality, it's a potential. It's like a lightning flash. Before you can see what it is, it's gone. This is where intellect comes from, this power of inspiration. But with inspiration, you can't do anything. You have to have application, analysis, development. Like you're doing an experiment, the first thing you have to do, I remember from grade 8, when we did some experiments, the first thing we had to do, we had to organize the things we needed to do the experiment. Remember that? Had to have a list of things. What are we going to use in this experiment? So that's the analytical power that comes from the left side, the developmental side of the intellect. That's connected with the female aspect. But the female aspect, where does it come from? It comes from higher, it comes from the crown. Why does a person do what he does? It's not just because you had a brilliant inspiration. It's because you want to do it. Because you want. Where do you want from? Where's the power of wanting? The power of your desires? Where does that come from? Does that come from your brain? No. Because inspiration comes from your brain. Analysis comes from your brain. Connection comes from your brain, different levels in your brain. Where does desire come from? Your desire, your driving force, It says, nothing stands in the way of a person's willpower. Where does willpower come from? Willpower comes from higher than intellect. It's symbolized by a crown. Like Crown Heights. Nothing's by accident, right? That's class number one. Nothing's by accident. Everything has a body and a soul, and nothing's by accident. Two axioms of life. The crown, why did Hashem set up the whole system? And the answer is because Hashem wanted to have a dwelling place in this world. You hear this, Dasi? Hashem wanted a Chabad house in Little Rock. So we have to have Rabbi Samed, Rabbi Pape, Rabbi Muchkin, all the whole crew, bit by bit, all because the Rebbe wants Jewish people to learn about Torah, so we had to have a Chabad house in Little Rock, and all these things fell into place. But the original want is that Hashem wants a place where he can be at home in Little Rock and in Long Island and in Paris and Marseille and London and Israel and Jerusalem, everywhere. Hashem wants the world to be his home. We have to make it a home for him. Avraham Avinu was the first one who had a Chabad house. He had a tent set up in Beersheba with 4 doors. Anybody coming by, he would invite them in, give them wine, bread, water to wash, place to rest, refresh themselves, and he would teach them about God. It was the first Chabad house. Okay. So the question is, why are we doing all these things? And the answer is because this is what Hashem wants. Why does Hashem want? Why do you do anything that when you really want something? I mean, I remember when I was in college, there was a boy in my dorm, very simple boy, small town boy, not sophisticated, very simple, nice fellow, not deep. And he took one of the most difficult courses, which was history, because you had to do a huge amount of reading, huge, to go through that, to get through that course. And he took it, and he barely passed. But he kept on working at it. And in the second year, it was a 4-year course, the second year, he did a little bit better. He got a C. From C minus, he went to C. In the third year, he went to C plus. He kept on working at it, he graduated with a B. Because he wanted to do this. And his desire to do it made him successful. Similarly in life, if you really want something, there's nothing that's going to prevent you from getting it. I know people, they really wanted to get married, and they did. They did it. And people really wanted to learn Torah, and they did it. What's the driving? So the driving force is what you want, your willpower. Nothing can stand in the way of a strong willpower. That's a fundamental idea in our philosophy of Torah. Ein davar oimed bifnei harotzei. The power of desire, of desiring a thing, is called ratzon. Ratzon. Yehi ratzon. Yehi ratzon. Yehi ratzon. Yehi ratzon milfanecha. Hashem Elokeinu. Y'all heard that, right? Heard Rabbi Teleshevsky sing it. He sings so beautifully. I used to sit beside him for break-ins, saying beautifully. Okay, he Ratzain. It should be Hashem's will. Ratzain is the will. He Ratzain. And nothing can stand before the will of Hashem. If Hashem wants it, it's definitely going to happen. Definitely going to happen. Nothing can hold back the will Like nothing can hold back Niagara Falls. Nothing can hold back the will of a strong-willed person. But what is the driver behind the willpower? Why does a person want something like that? And the answer is because of the deep inner pleasure that he or she gets from it. And that keeps the willpower going. Anticipated pleasure. That's called tainug, like Oneg Shabbos. Tainug is pleasure, delight. When you really want something and you get it, how do you feel? Great. That's called delight. Oneg. Oneg is the panemius, the inwardness of ratzon. Okay. Now, I just to close the circle on these ideas. A crown is called keser. Keser. A crown, the word crown is written keser. A little bit. Keser. Chav. Tav. Resh. Now, Hebrew is a wonderful language. Every letter has a value. Chaf is 20. You have first 9 letters of the Aleph base are Aleph base, Gimel, Daled, Hey, and up to Tes, which is 9. Yud is 10, and after Yud comes Chaf, 20. And we get the numbers in between like an abacus by adding up the ones that we've already counted. We add them on. So Chaf plus 1 is Chaf Aleph is 21, and so on, right? Then we get to Kuf, which is 100, and then we go from 100 to, after Kuf comes Reish. What's after 100?
200.
Huh?
200.
200, right. After 200 comes 300 Shin, 400 Reish. So here 400, here we got Reish is 400. No, Toph is 400, I'm sorry. And Reish is 200. What do we add up to? We add these up, what do we get?
620.
620. Now what's going on? Keser means the crown. If the crown of Torah is equal to 620, how does it fit together? Why isn't it 613? I'd say the crown of Torah should be 613. That's the number of mitzvahs in the Torah. Doesn't make sense. The crown of Torah should be 613. What's going wrong here? What are we missing? 613 from 620 leaves 7. What's 7? 7 is the 7 mitzvahs of the rabbis. They're instituted by the rabbis. There we go. What are the 7 mitzvahs of the rabbis? Like lighting Shabbos candles, reading the Megillah, lighting Hanukkah candles, saying blessings, making Erev Tafshilin, and so on. 7 mitzvahs of the rabbis, as to 620 total. So 620 mitzvahs of the Torah, 613 of the Torah, 7 of the rabbis equals 620. 620 in Hebrew is a word. 620 is a word. 20 is Hebrew esrim. Esrim. Esrim is chaf. It's 20, equals 20. The letter chaf has 2 forms. There's a simple chaf, and there's a long chaf at the end of the word. So number 20 can be written in 2 ways, either in the middle of a word or at the end of the word. So this tells us that if esrim is 20, stands for keser. Esrim has 2 forms, meaning that there's 2 levels of the keser. One is, what is the keser? The keser is the crown. That's the driving principle behind why you do all the mitzvahs, because you really want to. You want to light Shabbos candles. Why? Because it's so beautiful. So you have the driver of the Ratzon is the external driving force, and the Panemius Kesser, the internal level of Kesser, is symbolized by the Chav Sofi. So it's all there in the Esrei. External level, why do we do a thing? Because we want. Why do we want? Because of the anticipated desire that we have. That's called Panemius Kesser, the inner aspect of Kesser. There you are.
Thank you.
We'll continue tomorrow. Bezras Hashem Yisborach.
Thank you.
Dasi, welcome to the class.
Thank you.
Glad to have you here.
For having me.
It's here.
Every one class is here. Oh, great, easy. Yeah, I know, because many holidays have been too much work. How was it? Okay. Yeah, so that's so nice. I did in my rabbi's house.
By the way, I didn't do this, but if you took all the letters of the word Esther, which means 20, and you added up their values, what do you think they would come out to? Yeah, what would they come out to?
What are the letters?
Just erase it. Show you more. Take a wild guess. What do you think they might come out to? Just took the letters and added them all together. What would we get? Close. You're warm. Take a second guess.
620?
Yes.
Wow.
I see you're a natural in this class.
I find gematria really fascinating.
Yeah. So Esther was I 70, Shin 300, Reish 200, Yud 210, Mem 40. What do we got?
Wait, can you give me the numbers again? 690?
70, 300, 200, 10, 40.
620. 620.
I like the one that got it up in my head. I love gematria. It's so fascinating. Like each letter has a meaning. You can combine it in certain ways.
Yeah. How was your holidays? Good. In January, right? Bueno, here they have many activities.
Yeah, in the dorm, went to people's houses. It was really nice.
Yeah, actually in my brother's house, it's gonna be like 15 different persons for each holiday. So I share the room with 4 girls, so it's so funny.
Oh, man, it was so nice. That sounds fun.
Yeah, and it's different people always, so it's nice. We go to the shul, go to the activities, and now the background, they see us around. Too much food. Too much food to take. I mean, it's crazy. Oh my God, oh my God. You finish lunch and it's
And then you
almost
go to dinner.
dinner, like 1 hour and 3. No, it's
I know.
crazy. But it was very nice.
But very nice, yeah.
Yeah, but when we finish, my boss said, sorry, we need to go to Miami. They go to Miami, so I can say,
Miami?
but he go to Miami, so I need to say the word. And there isn't the fact